Hi there, and a very warm welcome to this new series, How to Run a Board Meeting. I'm Sean McDonald from Board Pro, and it's great to have you with us. In this episode, we're diving into a topic that often gets overlooked, but it's absolutely critical to good governance: how to prepare for and write your board papers. Now, I know many of you joining are CEOs, busy people with a full calendar and plenty of boardroom experience under your belts. So first things first, thank you so much for carving out your time to be here today. We've designed these episodes to be practical, fast-paced, and filled with real-world insights you can take straight back to your organization. Up next, we're diving into one of the most critical, yet often overlooked aspects of board effectiveness, the board paper or board report. We're thrilled to be joined by Julie Garland McLellan, one of the most respected voices in board governance, to walk us through how to prepare for and write board papers that truly make an impact. Julie brings decades of experience advising boards across sectors, and today she'll share practical strategies to help you move beyond generic reporting and instead craft board papers that are clear, concise, and strategically focused. If you want your board to make better decisions, engage more deeply, and stay focused on what really matters, it all starts with how you frame the conversation, and that begins with the board paper. So let's get started, Julie.
Hi, thank you, Sean, and thank you everybody for being here today. A warm welcome to this webinar. This is a topic that is so dear to my heart because if you can give your board the right information in the right way, they can make the right decisions. And for me, that is the most important thing for any board, is making the right decisions at the right time so that your company can prosper. So in order for you to properly prepare for your board papers, it's absolutely essential that you understand what your board does and why strategically your board needs this paper right now. So before you even open up your laptop and put a finger on the keyboard, think about what's going on for the company. Strategically, what decisions does your company need from your board? That will really help you write your paper at the right level. Once you've thought through what's the strategic purpose of the paper, then it's important to think again from the point of the view of the board. What is the context for this paper? What is going on that the board is aware of and should be aware of? What information do they need that is not particularly the topic that you're writing about, but that helps your board to put that topic into a context so that they can make good strategic decisions about it? So really important, understand the strategic context and then understand the board's context. The final thing to do is to actually do the writing. Once you've got those two pieces of understanding, now you need to concentrate on writing something that is succinct and yet comprehensive, and at the same time that is very compelling, that actually leads the board to the conclusion and the decision that you want them to make. And that allows you to close with a clear call to action that the board feel confident they can move on and implement. So I know a lot of people quail when somebody says, "Could you write a paper on that for the board?" You've been asked to write the paper because somebody who knows what they're doing thinks that you are the best person available for the task. So even if you absolutely hated essays when you were working as a student at uni, feel confident. You've been asked because you are the best person. They're not expecting Tolstoy or Shakespeare. They're expecting you, and no one does you better than you do. So as I said a couple of slides ago, really important, think through what's the purpose of your paper. why does your board need your paper at this meeting or at this time if you're writing a paper for an ad hoc board conversation or a strategy workshop or something else. So think through, what's the purpose of the paper? And there are generally 4 things that boards look at with papers. And one is, does this paper help us strategically advance the company towards its vision? Is this a strategic decision that moves the company forwards? Is it something that helps us to deliver our strategic mission? These 2 are perhaps the most popular and exciting reasons for giving your board a paper. So really important, the vision or the mission. If you can't see a link between the vision or the mission and your paper, it's a good idea to ask whether in fact the board actually needs it or not. The next 2 reasons, or the next 2 most popular reasons, are because it helps the board to understand and therefore to manage or to assume accountability, because it rests on our shoulders as directors to assume accountability for a risk. So if your paper is about a risk, if it's helping the board, or the final one is, does it help the board to discharge their duty? Now, boards have a lot of statutory duties. They have a lot of fiduciary duties. People expect high performance from boards. And so very often your paper is about helping the board to discharge their obligations in the right way. So think through, and if you have identified your paper's purpose, if your paper has a template, put the purpose in there. If it doesn't, make it your first sentence in the first place in your paper where you get a chance to express yourself. You need that purpose right at the top, because that is the little hook that will capture your board's attention and bring them on the journey through your paper to whatever conclusion you are aiming towards. So make sure that your purpose is right at the top. Ideally, you'll have a template and purpose will be one of the headings on it. So put your purpose there. This not just hooks the board and makes them think that, oh, this is something important that I want to read, rather than, oh God, another paper. Oh no. It generates urgency and clarity and confidence. It tells the board not just what they're reading, but why. And as Simon Sinek said, if you start with why, people naturally engage. So putting your purpose at the top really frames the paper as something that your board actually want to read. Once you've got the purpose clear, start with the facts. Most directors are reasonably practicable people and they like facts. It's very hard to make a decision when you have no facts. So you can give the board a clear section of just an information download. Remember, you've already got their attention with the purpose, so they will be quite willing, even though there might not be a story narrative here, they'll be quite willing to take up a heap of facts just to help them through the paper. So what are the key facts? And then you can tell the board what you think the facts mean. You can identify trends that you think you might have spotted, or you can identify areas where these facts might lead to an obligation or an opportunity. Your opinion is the fact here. Your opinion is something very important. The board have hired you for your expertise. The fact that you hold that opinion is important to them. The opinion itself is not a fact, so make sure when you put an opinion in your papers that you identify it as management believe, or we assume, or it appears, so that the board can clearly identify the fact of your opinion from the facts that are external and otherwise verifiable. Then once you've given sufficient facts, and don't give every fact, they don't need the whole kit and caboodle, they just need the key ones, move on to the plan, the next steps. What do you want to happen next? How is it going to happen? How will you pay for it? How will you find the time to do it? How will you find the skills and the enthusiasm and the people? How will you monitor it? How will you report this to the board? And most importantly, what will you get as a result of all of that effort? Now your board is primed. They know why they're reading this. They know the facts. They know what the plan is. Their minds are going to wander to, oh, what else? What if? What could possibly go wrong? So really important, take them on that journey, come on that journey with them. Have a section of your paper or just a paragraph where you tell the board, what other options did you consider and discard before the next steps that you've just so confidently outlined? What facts did you find that actually seemed to undermine the other facts? What points of view did you encounter from people who had different interpretations of the facts or different ideas about whether or not this particular course of action was good? What other interpretations of the facts are possible? And what could go wrong? Where are the risky points in your plan? Where are the places where you don't have enough data or where your data is old and possibly out of date and no longer reliable? Think of your paper as a rope bridge with lots of wooden planks. Where are the planks that are a little bit rickety, a little bit rotten, a little bit likely to collapse? And make sure that the board understand that if that particular plank cracks, we still have others. The ropes are still sturdy. What will we do if the things that could go wrong do go wrong? How much will it cost us? How far back will it set us? And how will we be able to recover? That gives them great confidence. And make sure that you close strong. Make sure that you really help the board to understand that now you've read this paper, this is what you've got to do, or this is what you want to be thinking, or this is how confident you can be. Remember, different types of paper. If you think back to episode 1 of this webinar series, you can color code. So if it's a discussion paper, you might color code it as Steve Bowman suggested with blue and say, now you've got these facts, this course of action, these ideas, these other ideas that contradict them. Please discuss and give us some strategic input. If it's an information paper, you might close with, therefore the board is now fully informed, or therefore the board is appropriately informed, or this is all of the information available at the moment for the board. Make sure that you close off, and particularly if you are in that red letter zone of this is a decision paper, make it clear. Management would like the board to make this decision. Don't let the board note and discuss and move on. If they make a different decision, fine. If they make a confident decision to delay the decision, fine. But they need to know that you are asking for a decision now. So close very strong. I've mentioned the word template. I'm very keen on templates. So if you have a standard template, put that template in and make sure on this template there's a topic rather than a purpose. There's an author. So the first sentence in your background area would be where you explain to the board that the purpose of this paper is to give you the facts for this decision or give you some information for a discussion so you can give us strategic input, and then explain what it is you want them to do. But standard templates are really excellent. Boards get a lot of confidence from seeing things that they expect to see. I know most of us are so young, we didn't get taught grammar at school. People thought we would just naturally learn it. And we do. When we speak, we normally use good grammar. We use simple sentences. We don't have therefore and hereinunders and pursuant tos. We tend not to use words that can be misunderstood. We tend to use active grammar. We don't say the contention was that this would be achieved through a careful and appropriate application of effort. We say, we were trying to do this. So think about active grammar and avoid using negatives wherever you can. It's very hard when you're writing policy not to say, don't do this. But I worry every time I see a bullying and harassment policy because the subliminal message is bullying and harassment. Whereas I really like it when I see a respectful workplace behaviours policy, which leaves me with the impression and the mental picture of respectful workplace behaviours. So avoid negatives. Look for things like don't, isn't, not, and see if you can rewrite those sentences to take that word out and tell the board what you want and what is happening, rather than what you don't want and what is not happening. Boards need a little bit of story. We need narrative. We need to understand. We like things to make sense. So on the one hand, you want to write concisely. On the other hand, you want a logical flow, a building of a story or a narrative through your paper. So combine paragraphs of text with dot points, particularly for delivering information. You can put 2 or 3 dot points. You don't even need to write a proper sentence. I know I just said good grammar, but good grammar doesn't always mean proper sentences. Dot points are snippets. A variety of presentation modes keeps your paper interesting. There is nothing more boring to look at than a really dense page of solid text written from margin to margin with very few paragraph breaks. Breaking it up with some dot points, maybe a picture, maybe some space, keeps it interesting visually. And when it's visually interesting, and particularly when the pacing of your delivery of information changes, it keeps the board alert and reading and engaged with your material. If you are going to break up your text with a chart or a graphic or a picture, there are some rules around this. Really important. First one is don't try to cram too many ideas into one graphic. You will confuse them. Unless it is a really well constructed infographic which takes them from point 1 to point 2 to point 3, or on a journey in time chronologically, one idea, one graphic. Remember, the whole idea of graphics is that the board should be able to look at that and go, oh yes, I know what that means. So if you have to explain the graphic, why bother? Just put the explanation in. A graphic should save you time. As they say, a picture should paint 1,000 words, and 1,000 words that could be replaced by one picture is not something you want in your board paper. Make sure if you are using charts and graphs that the labels and the scales are legible. If you don't need labels and scales, actually put somewhere on your chart that this is illustrative, that this is just describing a concept. They don't need labels and scales. And watch out for your colours. Make sure that they contrast so that you can see clearly which is which. Make sure that as far as possible, they are easy to discern whether printed in black and white or seen in colour. And make sure, of course, that for people who are colourblind or who have visual impairment, the colours can still be identified. It's really important when you are delivering information. Some people feel that a paper should be a paper and it should have everything it needs and it will be perfect. And you might be lucky and it might happen that way. But ideally, you should surface any likely questions. You should think through, when I read this paper, if I am a director and not the subject matter expert who's been asked to write this paper, if I read it, what questions will I have? Now, very often we are so expert that we can't actually think like that. So it's a good idea to share your paper with other people and find out what questions they have. You don't need to then edit the answers into your paper, particularly if you are happy that this is a question that you want the board to discuss amongst themselves and find their own answer to. You might want to edit the answer into your paper, or you might want to have the answer ready so that if you talk to your paper in the meeting, you can deliver it then. And this brings me to another point. When we ask people to write board papers, ask them carefully. Train them in what the board expects. Train them to understand just a brief bit of what is the board's job, what is their duty, why are you writing this paper? Give them that additional context around what it is you're asking them to write, so that they can really understand the position of this paper in the agenda and in the world as it occurs to the board. And make sure, absolutely make sure that people understand that a board paper is a big, important deal. If you have a board meeting on the 20th, the board papers should go out to the board at least by the 13th. That means your board paper must be given to whoever is collating and uploading the papers into the portal by at least the 11th, so they've got time. Remember, there might be a weekend in there. You might want to bring it earlier still, but make sure that people understand, one, that this is not something to do quickly and in a hurry and late at night after they've done everything else, and it is not something that can be done late. Commission with care. Make sure people understand who they're writing for, why it's important, what else needs to go in, and when it must be ready. As far as possible, once papers have been given and uploaded into your portal, try to have a consistent process so that any questions that do arise can be handled in the same way. This gives all of the directors a really high level of confidence. So give people a point of contact. If you have any questions on your board plaque, please talk to the chair or the CEO or the company secretary, or ask them for one and copy the others. Make sure, I'm particularly keen on this one, that if people are going to ask a question about a board paper, that they do so at least 48 hours before the meeting. There is nothing worse than having written a complicated paper and getting a question at 7 o'clock at night when the board meeting starts at 9 a.m. the next day. It is not fair. It is almost abusive. So have some rules, not just for you who are writing the paper, but for the board members who are receiving it. And this is best done through a discussion between the CEO and the chair, so that the chair can inform directors that, look, if you want your question answered at or before the meeting, make sure you ask it at least 48 hours before. Otherwise, management might just respectfully say, thank you very much for that question, but we will send you an answer after the meeting. And that might be after the decision, if the decision has to be made at this time. And to think about your protocol for responses. I love it when boards use their portal so that every director can see all of the questions that have been asked and all of the responses. It stops the directors from asking 3 different versions of the same question. Some people much prefer email. A lot of directors are quite old-fashioned. We like email. But some directors might actually want to pick up the phone, leave a voicemail, send a text. Think about how you want to receive and respond to your questions and do the best you can to make a standard protocol for that. If you are invited into the board meeting, or if you're always there as CEO, you're normally always there, don't read your paper. Don't give a verbal summary of your paper. Every time you do that, you are subliminally training your board that they don't really need to read the papers because somebody will tell them what was in them. They have read it. There is nothing more irritating when you have read carefully and then gone out and independently verified and then reread and looked for meaning in your papers. There's nothing more irritating than coming into the meeting and having somebody else tell you what you've already read. So just if you're speaking to your paper, remind them of the key points. Your job is not to present the material to them. The material should have been given to them before the meeting. Your job is to remind them of a couple of key points, one of which is probably the purpose of the paper, and then facilitate their discussion. Make sure that they are able to have a good discussion. So this is where you are perhaps just a resource, just standing there watching them discuss, ready to answer when they have a question or responding to their questions or extending the material in your paper in response to their curiosity. A good time to think about your minutes is when you have finished writing your paper. Think about what the minutes should say. You should know most of the time when you're writing a board paper, you know what the board is going to do. So think through, if I know what I want the board to do, does my paper actually build a persuasive case for them to do that? If they do what I expect, what would I want the minutes to say as a true and correct record of the discussion and decision? And write that down. Company secretaries and board minute takers have a huge and important job. But if you can write down just a tiny little sentence or two that says what you expect the minutes to say, you can offer that to the company secretary as, by the way, if the discussion and decision go as we expect, this is what I think might be some words you could use for the minutes. It's something for them to consider. Don't tell them put this in the minutes because they will be very cross and you're undermining their professional job. But offering them something that will help them, particularly if you expect the board to have a convoluted discussion because it's a complex issue. A draft minute really helps company secretaries. And just remember, the whole reason you are writing this paper is not to make you suffer. You are writing this paper because it's a valuable opportunity to help your board make the best decisions so that your company has the best possible future. It's a valuable opportunity. Don't waste it. And think as well, writing a board paper is one of the best ways that you can present and position yourself to influential people as a person of integrity, ability, and value. Don't waste that either. It is amazing what doors a well-written board paper can open, and it is really important that people like you go through them. Well, I hope that gives you a really good idea of how to write a paper. Of course, we do have a full masterclass. It's a full 4 hours of education going into depth with practical exercises that you can undertake. So I thoroughly recommend that for those of you that want to go deeper. And there are other webinars on this and similar topics that you can look at and consider. So best of luck for all of you. Really enjoy writing your papers. Remember, this is a wonderful opportunity that you have been given. And now I'll hand over to Sean, who's going to talk us through the process on your board portal for uploading those papers.
Thanks, Julie. So in this quick demo, I'm going to show you how smart and refreshingly simple it is to build and distribute a professional board pack using Board Pro. So if you've ever spent hours wrestling with Word documents, chasing last-minute reports from executives, or fixing a table of contents that just won't cooperate, you know the pain I'm talking about. And once that's done, there's the stress of emailing out a 200-plus page pack, hoping it lands safely in each director's email inbox, or worse, sending out messy shared drive links and crossing your fingers the directors can find what they need. And just when you thought you'd nailed it, in come the late papers. Time to redo the whole thing. Not with Board Pro. Board Pro eliminates all that chaos. Our intelligent board pack builder reduces prep time by up to 70%, streamlining the entire process from compiling to publishing without the stress. So let's see it in action. Right now, I'm in the Agenda Builder section of Board Pro. Let's say your CEO and Chair have already confirmed the agenda and it's time to start putting together the supporting papers. First, I'll confirm or enter the description of my agenda item, assign its purpose, choose the presenter, and set the time allocated for discussion. If it's an item for noting or information only, you can simply leave that field blank. Now to the key part, uploading documents. Just select the files from your local or shared drive and start the import process. Notice how fast that import process is. No spinning wheels, no delays. Once uploaded, you can drag and drop to adjust the document order within the agenda. Let's select another agenda item and import a new batch of reports. You can preview the agenda at any point to make sure everything looks just right. When you're happy, just publish the agenda and Board Pro takes care of the rest. Let's take a look at the finished board pack. Clicking View and Take Notes opens the final version, ready for review and secure distribution using our secure email links. What used to take hours has now taken mere minutes. Board Pro has built your board pack automatically, complete with a clean cover page, a hyperlink table of contents, and perfectly formatted content. Even with a 200-plus page pack, the whole process only takes minutes. Now here's the game changer: late papers. A few days before the meeting, a new report lands in your inbox. No problem with Board Pro. You simply edit the agenda, upload, edit, or remove the papers, and choose how you'd like to notify your board. The online board pack updates instantly with version control maintained, and any private notes your directors have made are preserved. And that's it. Fast, professional, and hassle-free. That's how you build your board pack with Board Pro. So we're thrilled to bring you our brand new 6-part series designed to help CEOs with their most important meeting of the month. Whether you're looking to sharpen your strategic vision, craft smart board agendas or write more effective minutes, or ensure clear follow-through on board actions, this series has you covered. Each episode dives into one of the 6 essential pillars of running a successful board meeting. No matter where you are in your governance journey, you'll find practical insights, proven tools, and fresh inspiration to elevate your boardroom impact. Let's take a look and see what's coming up next in the series. In this episode, Stephen dives into the powerful connection between your organization's strategic vision and the board agenda, and how getting this right sets the tone for every board conversation that follows. So get ready to shift your thinking and sharpen your focus. In episode 3, we'll hear from Julie McLellan, Managing Director of Board Administration Services, one of New Zealand's leading outsourced boardroom administrators. Danica will walk us through how to build, organise and deliver a board pack that doesn't just tick the boxes, but it sets your board up for success. She'll show you how to simplify the process while increasing professionalism. In episode 4, we'll hear from Fiona McKenzie, founder of Managing Director of Resolving Matters. Fiona will dive into one of the most critical success factors for any board meeting, and that is director engagement. Because let's face it, without it in the boardroom, the board meeting stalls. With it, you unlock real momentum. Fiona will show you how to create meetings where every director is switched on, contributing and driving value. Episode 5 with Jen Butler presents the unsung hero of every board meeting, the humble board minutes. And in this episode, we're guided by Jen, a governance professional who knows exactly how to turn boardroom discussions into clear, accurate and action-ready minutes. So whether you're tired of wordy transcript or vague summaries, Jen will show you how to strike the perfect balance, capturing what really matters in a tone that's professional, precise and purposeful. In episode 6, we'll hear from Julie McLellan, who will dive into the critical and often under-prioritized area of executive management accountability and follow-up. It's one thing to make decisions in the boardroom, but it's another to ensure that those decisions are followed through with clarity, ownership, and measurable outcomes. Giselle will walk us through practical strategies to close the loop on board actions, track process and progress effectively, and build a culture of accountability that drives real results between meetings. If you've ever felt like board decisions vanish into a black hole after the meeting ends, this episode is a must. So we've packed these 6 episodes with practical insights, expert know-how, and tools you can apply right away. And as CEOs, you don't just attend board meetings, you lead them. And these episodes will help you do exactly that with more clarity, confidence, and impact. Thanks for joining us in this insightful episode with Julie Garland McLellan on how to prepare for and write your board papers. Julie's deep expertise in governance and board leadership has given us a clear roadmap for preparing and writing high-quality board papers, the kind that don't just inform, but inspire action and elevate boardroom conversations. We hope you're leaving with practical tools and new ways to lift the quality, the clarity, and strategic value of your board papers, because great decisions start with great papers. If you found today's session useful, let's keep the momentum going and share your thoughts on LinkedIn. Don't forget to explore BoardPro's 30-day free trial to simplify how you can create and deliver board papers, and there's no credit card required on that trial. Thanks again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you at the next episode in the series.